Hello everybody, I'm Alfred, and I'd like to talk about something that I'm seeing going on in Nigeria right now. And it has to do with certain online behaviors. I've seen that people who are atheists and people who do not have Christ are basically becoming evangelists for atheism. There is a group of people who are trying to create an influencer community of anti-Christian sentiments, anti-church sentiments, and it all starts with anti-pastor sentiments. They always dish this one preacher, and which is why I should be careful, because this is how it starts. It doesn't matter who the preacher is. You may say, well, I don't agree with that preacher, or for whatever reason, perhaps you've seen or heard that preacher do something that they shouldn't do. But look at why are all these people coming after them? A lot of people do wrong things. Why don't they go after them? But they focus on the preacher. It is not about the preacher. It's about Christianity. They are just starting with, this is preacher. This preacher did this. A lot of things, people go off rumors. Somebody like VDM, a lot of the Nigerian activists, VDM, Shegu Kuti, the grandson of Fela Kuti, all these guys, there are so many of them now, they always diss the church and diss pastors. Oh, and it's like they're always making fun of Nigerians, and Nigeria's problem is because of religion. Nigeria's problem is because we are following pastors, we listen to pastors because of Christianity and all of that. And keep in mind, all these people never diss Islam, and those who follow radical Islam that takes them into terrorism and creating of Boko Haram and the real problems in Nigeria, they never distance. It's always pastors. And a lot of the so-called points they bring up is the same thing over and over again. Oh, they're all about money. Oh, they're all about money. Oh, they're all about money. Oh, they are stealing from the people. It's stupid. The people who go to church, don't they know why they go? Don't they know what's in it for them? They have their risks, they have their benefits. It's an insult for the VDMs and all these people to be like, oh, Nigerians are stupid because they go to church. They are being blinded by religion. It's an insult. They are saying you're smarter than all the people that are going to church, that you know what is best for them. And one of the best ways that you have decided to show it is by insulting them, insulting their beliefs, saying they are stupid for believing what they believe. And many of these people, that this and this, that. Even, I believe, Sowore, who has his own political ambitions, he also joins the bandwagon. And when you look at even newspapers, anytime you see, if you follow a Nigerian newspapers on Twitter, anytime you see a pastor or a general overseer of any of the big ministries, anytime you see him being covered, it's always, oh, Pastor so and so said that we can solve Nigeria's problem by praying. Pastor so and so said we should pray for the economy. Or Pastor so and so said that we should pray for the killing of Christians to stop. And they are doing it. The whole framing of it is, oh, they are presenting it to their non-Christian audience as, oh, look at this guy. He feels that, he's not doing anything. He's just selling to people that, oh, you pray about the government getting better. You pray about the economy getting better. It's always a diss. They don't talk about the homeless people that the churches buy homes for. There are a lot of general overseers that have bought homes for people. This is not your house. They bought homes for people. There are a lot of ministries in Nigeria Almost every single big ministry in Nigeria, Christ Embassy, Redeemed Christian Church of God, even newer ones that are still big like OPM, majority of them, they have free hospitals, they have free schools. Christ Embassy has opened several free schools. These churches give scholarships. They never talk about this. And I'm talking about feeding people on a daily basis. There are Christian orphanages in this Nigeria owned by ministries. That is where the tithe is going. That is where the offering is going. There are children that are eating daily that would have been on the streets dying of hunger. But because of churches and ministries, these children have a roof over their head and they are being fed. Where does the money come from? From tithes and offerings. Then somebody will come and criticize and say, this pastor is this pastor is this. They will say, this pastor has private jets. There are well over 200 million pastors in this whole world. Well over 200 million pastors in this world. It is not up to 8 of them that have a private jet. How can there be a profession of over 200 million? There are many pastors all over the world. Pastors, we are talking about pastors and, pastors, assistant pastors, evangelists, prophets, all of that within the fivefold ministries, active workers in church, that are high position, deacons and all that. All these people, there are about 200 million in the whole world. They are many, but only it's not more than 8 that have a private jet. But yet they want to put that thing on them and this and that. Understand something about now the pastors that are very wealthy. First of all, those pastors, a lot of their wealth, comes from the fact that they have a lot of investments. It is not from church. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why a lot of churches don't grow is because they are depending on offering. If you examine the biggest ministries are funded by basically the general overseer who owns several other businesses. The ministry itself, it's an organization, but it's a non-profit. And even if it may generate income, it is never enough because the needs keep coming. The reason a lot of people criticize is that you've never been in charge of a charity or anything that has to do with people. People are going to be coming to you to ask for stuff. If you start a church, people will come to you to ask for stuff. It doesn't matter. People will come to you with genuine needs and it will not stop. So you will have to have something to give. But people ignore the realities of all these things and they want to attack. And there are a lot of there are silly Christians who allow it and worse, join the bandwagon. Remember what Jesus said about persecuting. When he talked to Paul when he was Saul, he said, Saul, why are you persecuting me? He didn't say, why are you persecuting my disciples? Why are you persecuting my followers? He said, why are you persecuting me? When you join the bandwagon of those people who are always attacking the church, we are persecuting Jesus. You are doing it against Jesus. So I hope it won't come as a surprise to you on Judgment Day, your final destination. So all these people, and there's also a strand between all these new influencers. There's always a pro-African slant, which begs the question, where is it coming from? Because you have to understand that the destruction of a nation is strategic and it is planned. A lot of people have agendas. Why is it that, first of all, somebody like VDM, why is his name very black, very dark man? Why is his name that? very dark man, is referring to his skin color. It's based on I'm proud to be quote unquote black. Let us understand something. People who are in Africa don't have that journey because we are in a situation where everybody around us have our skin color. We are not like those in America. So the consciousness of being quote unquote black is not our reality. We are not conscious. It's not something that is not the differentiating thing that differentiates us from anybody around us. As a matter of fact, it unites us with everybody around us. The issue here is tribalism. This one is like this tribe, so I favor this and all of that. So that is it. It's not skin color. But why is very dark man's name very dark man? You can see that influence, and all these people, they always have this just is white mentality. Just came from the white man. Oh, it is the white man's religion. First of all, it is not. Let us establish something. There were already churches in Africa in the 4th century. There's a church in Egypt and a church in Ethiopia that is still standing. Its structure is still there till today. It dates back to the 4th century. America did not exist in the 4th century. America did not exist in the 5th century. America as a country did not even exist. 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, it did not even exist. But that's way before America existed. There was already Christianity in Africa. And the same thing applies for Europe. Way before the formation of Great Britain and all of that, there was already the gospel in Africa. So you cannot look at Christianity and say the white man brought Christianity to us. You see, if anything, it is us that took it to them. And then they later brought it back. And keep in mind that the colonization of Africa and the missionaries are two different things. The colonization opened the doors for the missionaries to move, but they are not one and the same. They were never one and the same. And that being said, the missionaries that moved there were primarily Catholic. But the Christianity that is in Africa today is not Catholic. The revivals in Africa today, all the great moves of God in Africa today from Christianity is not Catholic. It is the works of people like, first for it, we saw people like John G. Lake, then Billy Graham, then Evangelist Rambonke did a great work. Then we saw people like Archbishop Benson Idahosa, and then we saw Pastor Chris Yakulome. All these are not Catholics. The greatest moves of God, when you look at all the churches in Africa, they are not Catholic. The biggest congregations in Africa are not Catholic. The people who are pushing, evangelizing Christianity in Africa are not Catholic. The version of Christianity that came with colonialism was strictly Catholic. The one that's, the British monarchy only recognized the Catholics. It is a Catholic thing. And the Catholics are not down with the other denominations of Christianity. And they group all of them and call them Protestants. Do your research into church history. So that being said, back to this situation in Nigeria and all these bloggers and vloggers that are dissing Christianity by using the pastors first of all. When you look at this, they are pro-blackness. It comes from America. So where is the sponsoring coming from? Like, for example, somebody like Vidia, very dark man, for you to be that big, you must have a lot of monetization and an inch behind you. And during one of his videos that he posts, after he was arrested by EFCC, and he talked about, what he discussed with EFCC, he said that his page is managed. His Facebook page is managed by a company abroad. When EFCC was telling him that he should pay tax for his social media monetization. Then he was saying that he's being paid there. It's being paid abroad. Somebody in America is actually the one, whether America or UK, somebody outside is monetizing and, running his account. Because you have to understand that in Nigeria, the social media thing is now big. It wasn't, you know, um, before. I was one of the first people who saw its potential way back many years ago of the internet, way before there was even a social media. But I made videos of what I wanted to make, and I was not consistent. And you know, this was before the algorithm, so my viewership was up and down, and it's never clicked with an audience. I didn't follow any. I didn't follow a plan, an online plan for growth and all of that then. But I was one of the first. However, now a lot of people, ever since Mark Angel, and people saw the money that Mark Angel made, a lot of people in Nigeria now take social media very seriously, content creation, and are trying to use that as, let me make money from there. So a lot of people now have managers, and there are now businesses set up around creating content in Nigeria, especially in Lagos and Abuja, and now the few of such companies in Port Harcourt, one or two, but the real hub is in Lagos. That being said, these guys are being sponsored. Majority of them are being sponsored, and we can see with the rhetoric and what they are doing. It's just like when you look at Reno Omokri, the post that he makes, even his Twitter accounts, you can boost your Twitter based on buying a blue check mark. And it depends on what type of blue check mark. The more expensive the blue check mark you buy on Twitter, the more your post will be boosted. When you comment under people's posts and when you post yourself, if you buy the golden check mark for businesses, then Twitter will boost you like crazy. And one thing that I did not realize that I now know, and perhaps it was not as strict as before when all this internet thing started in like 2010, 2011. Now we are in 2025, and I've noticed that the social media platforms, I create content. Majority of the content I create and what I do, I've always been targeting America. That's it. But I've discovered that the social media platforms themselves, they push things to the country the person is from. And one of the things that made me realize it is when I started buying TikTok ads. I discovered that it's impossible for my ads to be advertised outside of Nigeria. Not only did it automatically choose Nigeria, there's no way to change it. Perhaps in the future there will be, but now it is just that. And it made me wonder, if I'm buying ads and they're forcing it has to be Nigeria, what about promotion? That means all the content, they want Nigerians to only talk to Nigerians. And it made sense to me, because it's like there are a lot of people on the social media sites, for example, TikTok. How many Chinese videos do you see? There are a lot of Chinese. Imagine going online, you are in Africa, and then the content that is coming to you is Chinese content, people speaking Chinese and all of that. So the platforms themselves are creating a situation where they are tailoring, they are pumping out content from the location it is coming from. So if you are in Nigeria, they will push your content to Nigerians. And that is bad for several reasons. Especially since, ad revenue that is paid for Nigeria is smaller than other countries. And what if you have something to say to other countries or other audience? So that is your audience. you know. So that's a big disadvantage, you know. So I'm still looking and planning out several things, you know, when it comes to my approach on social media. But all of this shows, you know, these people that are sponsored to be pushing anti-Christian rhetoric, you have to understand, you know, who pays for their golden check mark, who pays for the blue check mark, the more expensive one, because the more expensive the blue check mark, the more you get pushed. Who is paying for it? Where is that money coming from? And where does somebody in Nigeria have the time to be on Twitter 24/7 just replying to comment or, you know, arguing with people, arguing with people, arguing with people? Where do you have that time? Don't you have a job? Don't you have needs? You know, that kind of person, that person has to be paid in Nigeria. Where where will you find food to eat if you are on Twitter just arguing and arguing? So now you are in the business of monetizing the impressions from the arguments, or, you know, and that is how guaranteed is that, and how guaranteed it will be enough? So you have to think about it like the Reno Omokri thing. When you look at it, you know, he's clearly paid by APC, and, you know, if he's paid by APC, he's not the only one. Then what about those that are paid by other organizations? Because other people have agendas. Look at, for example, the VAX, you know, that they were pushing during the lockdowns. Someone like Pastor Chris Yakudomi, that's a huge pastor that a lot of people believe and respect. He condemned it and told a lot of people not to take the VAX. And because of that, many Nigerians did not take the VAX. He brought a lot of Christians, and he talked because he's respected within the Christian community. So a lot of pastors were on it and were looking into it, and, you know, he will send research papers and documents to different pastors. You know, look at the problem with this thing during the lockdown. So a number of churches stood in the way of what could have been billions of dollars, and, you know, the debt of a lot of Africans, which the globalists wanted. So there are a lot of things that Christianity is blocking. Look at America. America stepped away from God. God is not number one in America. Now what has happened to America? America has so changed. LGBTQ. Look at the Planned Parenthood. How many people have been killed? And look at the monetization behind all the people that have been killed. Look at, for example, the treatment of Trump, the lies. They now have a complete dishonest media. It is not a coincidence that you see these videos online of Americans that they ask, name 3 countries outside, you know, or like name 3 countries in Asia, or name 3 countries apart from America, and they can't name anything. You know, they say name 3 countries that starts with the letter A. They say they think say America, which is the country they are in, and then they can't say anything else. That is the dumbing down, the intentional dumbing down of the Americans. The educational system was intentionally dumbed down. Those people are graduates. Those people have degrees. Some of them have PhDs. But you ask them simple questions that their parents knew, who were not even as educated. But the current Americans do not know, because there is an intentional dumbing down of Americans because of an agenda down the line. And they are bringing the same thing to Africa. It's important that certain roadblocks be removed. Christianity is a roadblock. It blocks certain globalist agendas. It blocks a lot. There's a reason why when a communist comes into power, they fight and they destroy Christianity. They go after Christianity. Because there cannot be 2 gods. A communist government wants the leader, the president, to basically be a god figure that is unquestionable. When you now have quote-unquote religious like Christianity in a communist government, and there are people who are Christians. When the government says this, everybody have to do this, and then the people now say, well, we can't because the Bible says we have to go in a direction. It's a problem. So the government has to attack Christianity because Christianity is standing in the way of what the government wants to do as far as control goes. So we have to see all these things and all these attacks in Nigeria. Imagine the Williams and the Coos and the Shegun Kutis and all these activists, these online keyboard activists. All the attacks on Christianity, they don't see the good that the church is doing. They don't see all the charity. They don't see all the help. They don't see all the advice, all the teachings, all the motivation. These are the same people that if a worldly person were to come and Anthony Robbins were to come and hold a conference and talk about success and motivation and then ask you to pay $1,000 before you enter, they will have no problem with it. But they have a problem with the preacher talking about success. And he invites them for free. People come for free and listen. And he thinks that when the preacher teaches about success, the people will not be successful. But when it's an Anthony Robbins or somebody else who is not a Christian teaches about success, then the people will be successful. So it's ridiculous. People make all kinds of comparisons and ignore so many facts. So we must stand strong for Christianity and push it. But one thing I have to say is that where are all the Christians? The preaching of the gospel is not something that is for the preachers alone. It's not something for pastors alone. It's not something for evangelists alone. Everybody has been given the Great Commission. The mere fact that your ability to live your life as a Christian is under church should be enough for you to stand up and do something about it. You see, so that being said, everybody, if you go to a church, you're a Christian, any capacity, let your prayers be known. Now, you don't have to waste your time arguing with these people online, these activists, because no matter how good the points you make are, they will still want to argue. So it's not about responding to them, or getting into long-winded arguments with them. Keep in mind, they are paid to do that, so they can do it all day long. And the ones that are not paid, shame on them. Instead of them to be doing something productive with their time and making money, they are arguing, trying to argue people out of Christianity. What does it concern them? And that is a question that you should ask. Why should an atheist want to evangelize people out of Christianity? If you do not believe in God, how does it concern you that somebody else believes in God? Why is it your problem? If you do not believe that there is a God, why does it disturb you that somebody else believes in God? How is it disturbing you? How is it affecting you? It shouldn't bother you. If you think that Arsenal is the #1 football team and somebody else thinks it is Man U, is it something to, start the war over? So if you don't believe in God, you shouldn't care that somebody else does. It is those who believe in God that therefore then believe that those who don't believe in God will go to hell. That you can see and say, okay, yes, he's trying to save that one from going to hell because that is what he believes. He believes that one is going to hell. But you that do not believe in God, then you should believe that, it doesn't matter. That person believes in God, when in your mind, you should be like, when that person dies, you realize there's no God, there's no point. It shouldn't bother you. What you should ask yourself is his believing in God making the world a better place or a worse place? If it's not negatively affecting the society, why should you try to stop it? So all these people, you have to look at their motivations. Many of these people are demon possessed. And you have to be careful because there are people that they do good things and bad things. But, like VDM does certain good things, but you have to be wise and look at the total package. And you know, this is war against Christianity and constantly attacking pastors. You know, what is behind it? You have to have discernment, you know, and see the total package, because at the end of the day, the solutions, what solution does VDM really bring? He's not really, at the end of the day, he's not going to solve any problem. That's the truth. And you must be wise and think about what is effective. How can I really change the world? Because, like, look at Shegun Kuti. All the protesting that and all the complaining that he does, he's just somebody online that is monetizing online activism. Complain, 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 complain. What is it changing? How is it making the world a better place? There is no, and that is because he has no God. So he has no direction, no prayer, and no useful action. All these people are all talk, all gas, no action. You know, it's VDM that has some action. But at the end of the day, because of several different factors, and he's not as smart as he thinks he is, you know, but because of several different factors, he's not going to create any change in Nigeria, you know, and that's the fact. And if you want to be honest with yourself, you see, but some of you, you have to wait down the line and then look and see that, well, nothing changed from his, after all his actions, you know. But that being said, we are the light of the world, we Christians. So we should be the ones that, you know, we pray, we listen, we take direction, God speaks to us, we take action on what to do to make the world a better place in every way, shape, and form. You know, so everybody get active, make videos, you post content, you post just comments, you know, so let it be known that you're a Christian, let it be known that I stand for Christ, you know, be a champion. Some people are proud to be a champion for supporting their favorite basketball team or football team. Oh, I'm an Arsenal fan, they post it online, all of that, Arsenal this, Arsenal that. Why don't you post your church? Be a cheerleader for your church, you know. Oh, I'm a member of this church. We are proud. Look at this and that. You know, there are a lot of good things, a lot of testimonies. Every church has testimony time where there are amazing testimonies. Share that. You know, let's talk about that. Let's celebrate that. You know, continuously flood the internet, flood your daily life with the word and of the goodness of God, with the testimonies of the goodness of God. You know, and we'll create a world where many people will come to the knowledge of Christ, and it will be a better world. You know, even you listen to other people's testimonies, your faith will also increase, and it will create a situation where you will get even more testimonies that then you can then also give. And as people hear it, their faith rises and they get even more testimonies and tell more testimonies, which will also increase your faith when you hear it and lead to even more testimonies and so on and so forth. So that's it for now, you know. Remember to check out alfred.vip for more. Thank you and God bless you.